very beginning, how McKernan Woollen Mills was founded, because from what I'm reading online, it actually began as a love story, not just of crafts, but a love story, a meeting of minds. Can you tell me more, Anke?
Yeah, so founded is a big word in this sense, I suppose, because I was a weaver. I trained as a hand weaver in Germany, and then I came over to work in Ireland. I really loved it in Ireland, and I had a job organized in McNutt's Hand Weavers in Downings, and it was summer holidays, like this time of the year, I suppose, and the job started in August, the beginning of August, I think, and I spent a week before in Dublin and met Eugene in the Brazen Head. We just fell in love, I suppose. And he said, I'll hitch up with you. People were hitchhiking at the time. So, and then he just stayed somehow. So yeah, we haven't been apart much since. Then I was pregnant, then we moved back to Germany and lived in Germany for 6 years. And we just started the hand weaving business, and we were making everything. Like, we hadn't even money for yarn, you know, like we got scraps of yarn from big factories and made tea towels and sold tea towels at craft fairs, and made fabrics and made children's clothes out of it and sold them, and made skirt lengths and all different things. We hadn't a clue. Nobody told us what you could make money with. Over the years, it turned out really the only thing we could make money with is scarves. It was like, it just kind of took over by itself. We just had so many orders for scarves. They sold well. They're easy to make. We were only weaving at the time. In principle, a scarf is just a plain piece of fabric, like not plain, I mean, it could be color, but it doesn't have to be cut or anything. It's by itself a piece of fabric. You just have to tie fringes or something on it. And then there are no size issues, which you have, for example, with tablecloths. That used to be a major problem, you know, love this tablecloth, but my table is so and so long, you know, can you make me another one? And weaving doesn't really, you can't really make one, you know. The whole setup process is so time consuming and takes so long that you know, you have to make 50 tablecloths to make it worthwhile. And if you just made 50 tablecloths and somebody wants one in a different size, you know, you end up with 100 tablecloths in the same color. So that's one of the reasons. And then there's a sense of, you know, like what are you willing to spend on something? And that is actually quite up in scarves. I mean, we've seen scarves for £1,000 in Harrods, you know. I mean, it's totally out of scale what, yeah, but I mean, essentially we are competing with every scarf that's been made, you know, with the, I don't know, €2 fleece scarf that's been sold in pennies. I mean, people could also wear that scarf. Also, who needs a scarf? I mean, how many scarves do people have lying around? You want to make something that people fall in love with, you know, that is special, that is doing something for you.
Well, I think that's where the, you know, like being a craft person, preserving that age-old craft, you know, and bringing it to life. And you mentioned how, you know, they're available in Harrods, but you're selling online all over the world.
I mean, retail, as in selling directly, is about 10% of our overall turnover. We still have 90% wholesale, and still do. I mean, maybe a bit less, because like that went down last year too, because, you know, the Irish shops didn't open. But like in 2019, we had 70% export of our wholesale orders, like making scarves to sell to other shops. Like, we make scarves for museums, we make specials, we make kind of themed, you know, we made something, for example, for the Cliffs of Moher with the surf on it and with fish on it, you know. I just love those.
Just on that, Anke, as well, like, you know, and Eugene is involved in the business obviously as well. Like, are you the creative and Eugene is, you know, what's the balance there?
It's all kind of mixed, you know. Like, I suppose I breathe and sleep this, you know. I really love this, thinking about what would suit these people. It's also like a, you know, like so many years of doing something just adds up if you don't fuck up in the meantime, you know.
I know.
You know, if you don't fall out with your customers or whatever, like, you know, and if they're still in business and you do well, you know, and you supply them at the right time, and you do your best, you know, that the product is right, and then, but you also get to know them and you know what they like. You know, we deal with this mail order company in Germany now, and we've had such big orders from them this year. Like, I'm just making something, I'm offering some summer scarves to this mail order company, you know, and I made all these different designs with strawberries and with whatever, you know, and give them a choice. And, you know, in the end, you want something that makes people happy, you know, and sometimes it's like a picture on it, like a, you know, they bought like thousands and thousands of scarves that had fish on them.
I suppose it goes back to then, how do you curate your pieces, and do they actually tell a story?
I find it much easier if I have a task, if I know the customer. It is much, much easier. The customer, who are they, you know?
Has innovation actually improved your business, and how then, Anke, do you push those boundaries?
Our business has been innovating like itself, or we have innovated it over time by, like, first we were doing hand weaving. Then we bought these machines that are our looms that are from the Industrial Revolution. So we did our own Industrial Revolution. You know, they're over 100 years old, and they're really beautiful cast iron, leather, wood machines. They're really great for any tourists that come along, you know, and people understand the technique, how something is made, like they get such a sense of achievement, you know. We were at that level for many, many years where we were just weaving, and it was frustrating because we could only work with color. So then at one stage we did a program with the Crafts Council that was called Avant Craft, where we were looking for designers to help us to innovate. First we started printing on the scarves, and then we did showcase, the trade fair, and then people said, oh yeah, very nice, but can we have them without the print? So that was actually, you know, when you asked me earlier, how do you know what sells? Like, we were just over the moon with these flowers printed on our woven scarves. But somehow, like, people thought they looked cheaper than the woven scarf in itself. They just looked like a piece of fabric that had something printed on it. It was just the most devastating showcase ever, you know, all that work that went into that, and nobody wanted it.
How did you come back from that?
Yeah, and then, yeah, well, I mean, we just gave them the old stuff. And then we went to a trade fair in Paris to look at yarns, and on the flight back we met a knitter, and then I talked to her, and then, like, we was halfway through the program and we changed, and then we did some knitting with her, because, like, we had already specialized in scarves, but knitting is just a different thing altogether, you know, different technology, and really we didn't have a clue. I kind of thought I have a clue because I did hand knitting, but it's just a different thing. Machine knitting really works totally different, and, you know, it just has nothing to do with each other, apart from the look of the stitch, but the way it functions technically is very different. We ended up buying a knitting machine for €2,000 from 1958 or something, and that came from Germany. And it was also, like, we didn't have money then, you know, like, we wouldn't have been able to invest in anything more than that, or dared. It was a bit of a nightmare, you know, like, totally new thing. We hadn't a clue. This guy came over from Germany to teach us, and, like, the week later we had everything forgotten, and then he came back, I think, and then we had so many problems that we actually asked him to knit for us. So he has a company in Germany, and he only knits for designers. So we did that for, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years or something, and our business went up. Like, we already had this whole market established. Like, you know, people might have bought 10 scarves from us for their shop, and then they bought 20 or 30 or something.
This chance meeting on an airplane that evolved our business.
Yeah, but I mean, we could have also looked for a knitter to start with. I mean, you know, we just had to make a different decision. But in any case, I mean, in the end, everything in life is a bit of chance and taking the next route and the next route. So he knitted scarves for us for a while, and we finished them here, but it was complicated because we had to get the yarn sent to him, and then we had one reorder. So there's always lots of stuff left over at the end of the year, because, you know, we can't just ask him to make one scarf in one color, you know. So then, I don't know, at some stage in 2012, I suppose, it just clicked. We did showcase, and something clicked in our head, and we said we buy our own knitting. So we had to change our whole house. Like, everything downstairs that used to be our kitchen, sitting room, and everything is now a workshop. And we moved upstairs into our bedrooms and have a small apartment. Our children had gone by then. Like before, everything was mixed. Nothing actually seemed right anymore, you know, and you have people who come into work for you and they come into your kitchen in the morning and you have wool under the bed and whatever. That's what it was like. So then, yeah, we made those changes and then we had one knitting machine. And then from then it just went like zoom up, like the next year or the year after, I don't know, maybe the year after, we bought another knitting machine. We bought another couple of years later, we bought a fine gauge knitting machine, and another couple of years later, another fine gauge knitting machine. So within the space, like between 2012, 2013, when we had the knitting first, and 2019, our turnover quadrupled. We went from 1.5 kind of employees to about, I don't know, 15.
Was it just the right time that people went into this product?
No, it was just like we had an established market.
Yeah.
And they weren't buying very much from us. And all of a sudden we had all these beautiful products. Learned all the time, you know.
Innovation is learning, isn't it? It's like learning, moving on, just pushing out those boundaries. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, how has social media and possibly globalization impacted your business, if at all?
Social media is a two-sided sword for me. I'm not really sure. You know, actually, I think I'm really old-fashioned about it. I even write in a newsletter, which I have never done, you know, with people signed up to our website. So like the honest truth is that I feel with everything I do on social media, or with every newsletter I would write, I'm essentially saying, please buy from me. Please buy from us. And I have such a problem with that. Yeah. I just have a massive problem of going out there and trying to sell yourself all the time. I do bouts of doing something on Instagram and then I forget about it again. And then I've got somebody else to do it for us for a while. But I also feel if they say, please buy from us, I have the same problem with it. Also, another thing is, if you imagine that you grow from, like that you go start, that let's say in 2019, we made 42,000 scarves. And in 20, of like scarves, hats and wrist warmers bundled, right, products. And in 2012, we might have done 10. To be honest, like there was times when people rang and I said, I hope you don't want to order anything. Because, you know, you're just so snowed under. Like, I mean, I got up in the middle of the night to keep the knitting machines going. The only reason why this whole thing worked was that we live upstairs and we could keep the machines going in the night. And like, it's only for the last 4 and maybe 5 years that we even have a knitter, you know, like we were doing that before. Like, you know, it just takes a while to get your business to, you know, and have enough people to know all those jobs. You know, you have to train them in, and in the meantime, you do it yourself. And then, you know, you couldn't be bothered about Instagram.
It's like you're having a newborn baby. Like if you're going down to check on the machines, it's literally that.
We actually had a what you call it, baby monitor upstairs to see was the machine stopping. That's exactly what we had.
That is the best one yet. In terms of telling the story of your business, like branding shapes the story. Branding, how you brand your business, how it looks, it shapes the story of your business. Like you're a creative. How do you manage, you know, promoting the business, telling the story of the business? Because like for you, which is interesting, is you met somebody on an airplane. That was for you a form of telling your story and how that evolved. Then to your target audience and your market, how, if at all, you know, because you're a creative, do you manage it and how do you tell that story?
The main part of it is that every scarf looks as if it was made with love and affection and attention to detail, and you know, and that's the most important thing, because I think you can do as much branding and Instagramming and whatever. In the end, if it's in the shop and people don't want it, then they don't want it. I mean, I start now with one angle of it. We used to have a logo that we got, I don't know, when we were selling at craft fairs in Germany, and it was like an Irish knot and it sat well over McKernan. In Germany, people loved it. And we still have emails from people saying, why did you change your label? I love the old one so much. It meant so much to me. Now you're just like another one of the other ones, you know, just the same as everyone, you know, you're not really sticking out. But we felt at some stage that we were really not Irish enough. And if we were making scarves that were selling in the Art Institute of Chicago, to have this really Irish label on it, on a scarf that had nothing really, like, I don't know what, you know, really colorful, multicolored, funky scarves, somehow it was the wrong logo. So we changed that a few years ago, and I really like it, and I think it's strong, but it's true, it's missing that beautiful, quaint island thing. I don't know. We tried to make something that was in between, but didn't manage, and now, you know, that's our logo. So that's one thing. That's one part of branding. Another part of branding is the swing tag. So we have a really beautiful paper, handmade paper swing tag on every scarf that says McKernan, and then weavers, knitters, designers, weavers, knitters, makers, and it looks high class and beautiful. And then we have a fold out through 6 pages fold out card that tells people how we make it. We make scarves. There's a photograph of all of us working on it, you know, like sitting there smiling, and explains how we make it. And that goes out with every scarf that we send out. So if somebody orders 200 scarves, they get 200 cards.
I love this, because this is kind of a change to the norm, and it's going back to traditional, focusing on the product, how the product tells the story itself. So you're not talking about social media and getting influencers. You're not talking about pitching to the media. You have your story, and your story is selling traditionally. That is so unique and phenomenal. What then finally is next in terms of building your craft business, Anke, yourself and Eugene?
Yeah, really big plans. We have really, really big plans. So we're living upstairs on 60 square meters. And when we leave the house, we have to go through the shop and whatever. And we can't, our children can come home at Christmas because there's no one working here, and they can sleep on the floor in the office. So that has been our life for the last 10 years, I suppose. So we have been always looking at the house next door. There's a little cottage next to us that has been empty for years, and we have bought it now 2 months ago. So the plan is that we change that into a house for ourselves, and that we build in between the 2 buildings and have a transparent workshop. So when people drive by, they can see the machinery, and they can come in, and without us having to bring them through, take them by the hand and bring them through all the rooms, they can see all the workings from the outside. And then we're going to have a coffee shop, a tea rooms or whatever out the back, like it's beautiful big garden with old apple trees. We are going to move there. The office is going upstairs. We're going to have a much bigger shop. I'm 60, Eugene is 62. And we feel like this isn't the small business anymore, that we could just close down when we don't want to work anymore. And also, like, we want to give ourselves an opportunity to work for as long as we want. So we want to make it more simple to run and have much more retail, both online and in our own shop. Maybe even become a little bit smaller, but not to make 42,000 scarves anymore, but, you know, like, doesn't have to be, but let the business live without us. That's what we want to work on it, that we can train people, you know, there's somebody can be the shop manager, somebody else can be the coffee shop manager, you know, we're going to have a hand weaver, like we really look forward to have a hand loom again, so we can sit there and show people weaving. So the whole process of this whole textile manufacturing, we're going to have every angle of it to show to people. You know, we're going to get an really, really old knitting machine of the beginning of machine knitting. Yes, so that's the idea. And we're working on that. We've applied for planning permission, and yeah, that's our dream.
The future is bright. I'll tell you something, you are some woman over the last 30 years to keep innovating and changing, and I can't wait to see, and I love the fact that you're preserving the old and marrying it with the new, Anke. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciated it.
Thank you too.